Hi, my name is Angus Ho with Daddy Debt, a part of the Ash Management Group. I want to show how you can budget as a full-time engineer, make real estate investments, and live an exceptional family life as a dad. So come along with me in this journey of wealth. One of the things I love doing is learning. I love learning from other people's experiences and learning what other people are doing. Remember what some say, to be a good leader, you must be a good follower first. This is why today I want to share with you some of my favorite podcasters and books. I have learned many things using these tools, and I think you should too. Another way to learn is by watching all my videos. Ha! Just kidding. Remember, learning from the books and podcasts is part of the ASH method. To learn more about each part of it, there is someone out there with a podcast or a book about it. By learning from them, you can reach that dream goal of yours faster, travel the world, and even retire early and be financially independent. So let's get going! Let's start with my favorite books first. My favorite all-time book so far is none other than everyone else's favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There are many things that I love about this book, especially the story at the beginning. When Robert was a child, he asked the question of, where does money come from? His father quickly responded that they need to make money. This, in turn, sparked the idea that they would go collect tin tubes of toothpaste, melt it down, and forge their own nickels. Once the dad found out what they were doing, he quickly taught them the lesson of forging and that it is illegal. However, you can already see the entrepreneurial spirit of Kiyosaki. After that, he went to work for a grocery store, making very little money, but it was the repetition and the consistency that gave him his first idea of opening a comic book where kids were allowed to go read as many magazines as they wanted for a price. Soon, a kids' brawl broke out and the library was closed. However, this goes to show that young or old, no matter what walks of life you're from, there is always an opportunity to make money. The next lesson that I learned from this book is the 5 obstacles preventing you from success. The first obstacle is fear. Fear of failing. Fear of getting into lawsuits. Fear that when you're using your address as your business, that your tenants will hunt you down. Fear that you'll lose all your money. All of these are fears, but to me, if you don't get started, how do you know this is a legit fear or if this fear is something you made up in your mind? Obstacle 2 is cynicism. Everyone loves telling you the worst case scenario. What if your tenants trash the house? What if your house burns down? What if the economy crashes like during an oil crisis, a terrorist attack, a housing crisis, or even a pandemic? What if the tenant stops paying rent? However, if you let all these questions overwhelm you, then why bother starting? It's a mindshift change to beat cynicism by preparing for the worst case scenario, but also hoping for the best. Naturally, people like to hear gossip, worst case scenarios. It makes good stories, and people enjoy stories like these. The third obstacle is laziness. It's too hard. I'll do it later. All these things are laziness. When running a business or becoming rich in general, laziness is a killer when trying to start something. The rich only becomes the rich because they solve problems right away instead of letting it all pile up. The other part of becoming rich is that they get started. Instead of sitting on the couch watching Netflix, go network with people. Say something in hopes that you say the same thing, in hopes that you say the one thing that will get you a connection with someone. Start investing your money now instead of waiting around to see what happens. The fourth obstacle is bad habits. These habits can be uncontrolled spending, building up debt, constantly doing the opposite of what the wealthy is doing. Then, the last and final obstacle is arrogance. Arrogance is tough to differentiate sometimes between knowing your stuff and just being downright arrogant. Arrogance is when you stop considering other people and just ram your knowledge onto other people. At first, you might get a lot of followers because you know your stuff, but soon you'll be doing the same thing over and over again, and the user base either stops growing or you even start declining. That's when you know you're arrogant. This is the same with investing. When you start to think that you know everything and then not consider their problem, then that's just arrogant. That's the easiest way to never start and to lose everything you have. The next thing that I really love about this book is the cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant represents 4 different ways to generate income. Every person that generates income will be in one of these categories. The idea behind it is that you want to start on the left-hand side of the quadrant and then move over to the right-hand side of the quadrant as soon as possible. The last idea that I love about this book is the spending habits. In the book, Kiyosaki talks about drawing 2 lines. At the top of the page, a horizontal line, and at the bottom of the page, a vertical line. At the top, the horizontal line represents your income. At the bottom, it represents your assets and your liabilities. Now, depending on how you think, money can flow like the poor and the middle class, or money can flow like the rich. The poor makes money to spend it on things that add to the liabilities, which creates more expenses. The rich uses that income to buy assets that produce more income to buy more assets. These 3 core ideas is why I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad so much. The second book that I love is Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. In this book, there are 3 key things that I love and I hope you will find helpful and try out yourselves. The first thing is the life dashboard. The life dashboard comprises of 4 areas of your life: your work, your play, love, and health. These concepts are pretty simple and you should judge yourself on how full these 4 categories are in your life. The life dashboard is a way to determine your current situation, where you are now in these 4 areas and where you want to be in the future. Use this dashboard as the directions to getting to your destination. The goal is to find a healthy balance between all these categories, and what that exactly means is up to you. The next chapter that I really love that the book focuses on is the mind map. Sometimes it's just great to spend a day to reorganize what is a priority and what isn't. It's also where you can organize all your thoughts in one place and focus down one specific area of who you truly are, and to excel and fulfill your dreams. The reason to do this is to get you unstuck, to focus on what you actually want and go for it. The last thing that makes me love this book is the Odyssey Plan. Odyssey Plans is a way to draw a plan of what you want to do. Then it will help you draw parallel paths to see what you want to do. For me, the Silicon Valley story is what I want to pursue. However, questions like will I make it comes to mind. Then I thought maybe it's time to see if climbing the corporate ladder is the best thing to do. It's a much safer route and more achievable by most. An Odyssey Plan will allow you to dream a bit and help you accomplish those goals. Now, let's talk about my favorite podcasts. My favorite podcast so far is Zach's Market Edge, hosted by Tracy Reineck. She talks about stocks and what she would buy. She goes through many topics with different guests. In the podcast, she goes through many different sectors in the stock market, like technology, health, and retail. In this podcast, she also goes through a lot of the headlines that millennials are talking about, like when are you going through a recession, the stock splits, and why Tesla stocks are going crazy and would she invest. Tracy Reinick also has a second podcast that she does, and it's the Value Investor Podcast. Each week, she goes through a different sector to see which stocks are value. She summarizes any updates about Warren Buffett. So, if you love stocks, maybe that is something you should listen to as well. The second podcast that I love is the Bigger Pockets Podcast, which is hosted by Brandon Turner. Each week, he has a guest on to tell us their story about how they became successful in the rental business. Each guest goes through 4 segments of the show: the general discussion, the deal deep dive, the famous 4, and the fire round. These podcasts is where I learn all about real estate investing and strategies. If you want to know more about what you should do after the H part of the ASH method, you should come here to make your pockets even bigger. These books and podcasts are all vital to my learning and reaching the state of success I am at now. Like I keep saying, I now run a side company that manages over $3 million in properties, and because of that, I can now travel the world with my wife every year, live in a 2,000 square feet house, and become 90% plus of the way there to becoming a millionaire. Anyone can do it, even someone like me, an everyday dad who budgets and works hard as an engineer to stay out of debt. I hope you enjoyed my list of books and podcasts. I highly encourage anyone listening to give them a try. Also, make sure to join me at the Daddy Debt Facebook group to talk about your finance questions. Ask the YouTube community your questions by commenting below. If you like to hear more budgeting, engineering, or real estate tips, please leave a comment for what you want to hear, smash that like button, subscribe button, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I post new videos every week on Sundays. From the Ash Management Group, this is Daddy Debt, saving you money.